All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're prepping a foundation. We're doing what's called a house pad. We're documenting the process of buying land and building a house. And today is D-Day. Not D-Day like D-Day of the war, but D-Day of dirt day. This is the day that we start our dirt work. And so as you see behind me, there's a tractor behind me, all the red lines and everything that's happening on site. We're laying out our driveways, we're laying out our pad site. We have the survey company. So as you guys saw me walking around with a little blue flag, stuffing them in the ground, that's the pad site. We had the survey company actually come out and put those flags in. Now, I moved the house about 12 feet to accommodate a slope, so I moved everything 12 feet. So I kept the same layout that the survey company, and this survey is not as important in regards to being 100% perfect. Like, it's important because we need to see the vicinity of where the house goes, but we typically go too big so that we have more dirt space for the pad site than we actually need for the physical foundation of the house. And so everything just has to be spec'd on there more or less where it's gonna be within a reasonable threshold, and we usually go beyond that threshold to make sure that the foundation space is not compromised or too small. We want it bigger. So everything that I did when I was moving the stakes made it bigger than what we need to accommodate the pad site. So when we set the forms and the foundation, we have plenty of room to set the forms level, and then we have our benchmark laid out. And so Joseph today is going to do what's called grubbing. He's going to grub the lot. That means we take off all the vegetation off the lot, and then we're going to haul all that stuff off in a dump truck, and then we're going to utilize first the dirt that we have on site. So we'll go down on one side about 3 feet or so and take the dirt level down. Then we'll turn and mill that dirt. So if you guys ever go to construction sites where they're building a new building and you see them clear out the lot, and then all of a sudden there's these big piles of dirt, typically, a lot of that dirt comes from on site because the engineers will require you to go down, mill the soil, and then wet it down, hydrate it, and then recompact it so that way there's not what's called like a cold joint there. And that way, that's where foundations typically shift or slide, is if you just put dirt on top of the old dirt and there's a cold joint where it bonds together and then it can slip or it can settle. And so what we do is we take this base grade down a couple feet more and we mill it all together. And so our foundation might be here, but we take the dirt level down to here. We mill all this soil, recompact it and level it, and then we create a new pad site. And then we'll bring additional dirt in for the low portions of the lot, and then level out the foundation. So the next video you guys will be seeing will actually be watching the survey company go out and put specific corner points where the forms go exactly for the house. So every corner of the garage, every corner of the exterior wall, they'll even mark the interior walls that are structural walls. So on the sheets for the foundation and the structural plans, there'll be interior walls that have interior footings as well. All the perimeter walls are structural walls. So those will all go down 24 inches, solid concrete base forms, and and so all of those will be marked specifically exactly where the forms go. But then the interior ones will also be marked so that way we can go in there and have the concrete guys dig down and set those footings without having to do it with a tape measure. Now, they'll confirm it with a tape measure nonetheless, because it's better, the old saying, measure twice, cut once. So we'll go in, we'll have the survey companies mark it once, then the form setters that set the forms for the foundations will measure a second time, set the forms in that location, cut the footings on the interior partition walls, and then run all their rebar. And then they'll check it a second time or a third time. I want to explain to you guys what Joseph's doing right now. So we're clearing all the vegetation. That's called grubbing. And the reason you don't want the grub under the foundation is because it's organic matter, and that stuff decomposes. And so if you land up putting organic matter in your foundation and it decomposes, your soil lands up shrinking, and then your house lands up settling. So what we land up doing is we take all this grub out and we actually haul it off and get rid of it off the site. Sometimes if we have areas that are going to be tertiary areas that go down slopes, sometimes we'll bury some of the small stuff on site, but typically we get rid of it. And the reason why is because, like in these rural areas, we have septic tanks. Where there's septic tanks, there's leach fields. Where there's leach fields, you need them clean and packed with gravel so that the gray water that comes down your toilets and all the sediment sets in the septic tank, but all the water goes into the leach field. What you want to be able to make sure you have a clean leach field and you don't have grub in that. Same reason. You don't want the subgrade to get compromised and settle based on the inefficiency of what we do right here. You ever heard the old saying, everything starts with its foundation? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is what creates a solid foundation for the house. So the pad site is the most important part of building a house structurally. If we don't get the pad site right from the beginning, the entire house will be compromised long term. So we'll grub the entire lot, we'll take all that green and organic matter and we'll get rid of it. Then from that, we'll dig down the soil about 3 feet deep and we'll mill it. What milling is actually turning the soil and mixing it all together. So where you have a little bit of sand, silt, clay, and maybe mixed matter, and maybe we're bringing in some fill, which on this lot we will be, and on most homes we do, we'll be taking the off-site dirt, mix it with the on-site dirt in an even ratio. Then we'll come back in and we have a fire hydrant over here where we'll have we go in and we rent a water meter where we actually get charged for the quantity of water we use, and then we'll run a hose out there and we'll wet everything down. Now, you don't want the subgrade to be oversaturated where it's mushy. You ever had mud and you squeeze it, it comes to your fingers, or you step on it and it's really pliable? Or you have it where there's not very much water in it, and when you pick it up, it just falls apart and the sandy soil just falls through your fingers. You want something that, remember when you're a kid and you're making mud pies with your siblings, you can come in and you can hold it together. That's what we want. We want something that compacts well. And so we want to compact that soil to about 95 to 98%. So we'll end up having our civil engineer, our geotechnical engineer come out every 12 inches and they shoot proctors into the ground to make sure that, one, it has the right amount of moisture in the soil, and then two, it has the right compaction. Because oversaturated soil can't compact properly, saturated soil can't compact properly either. So they'll come out and say, hey, you need to add about 20% more water than what you're putting in the soil, or hey, you need to reduce your water by 15, 20%. And so the engineer will actually tell us how we're doing as far as hydration on that site. And so they'll come out probably a series of 4, 5, 6 times while we're doing this pad site and just confirm our soil density, our hydration, and our compaction on the pad site. Then the pad site will be left level and ready for forms to set. So we're back day number 2 of pad site. And so D-Day, right? It's a dirt day, and it's day number 2. So it's Saturday today, so I wanted to bring you guys back out and show you what grubbing a lot looks like. So yesterday we came back in and all the vegetation was here. We flagged the lot. We have laid out essentially the views of the house, the setting of the house, where the house is actually going to sit in relevance to the dirt work and the lot itself. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do on Monday now is we're going to start bringing fill dirt into this side that's lower. We'll hydrate the dirt, have a lot of water brought in, and now we'll actually start creating the foundation of the house. And so, extremely excited to be able to come in on Monday and actually level out this pad site. So by Wednesday, we'll be setting forms for the concrete with the concrete guys, and we'll actually put ourselves in a position on Wednesday where we can get the plumbers in here on Thursday to start doing what's called a rough-in. And that's where they dig out the footings and they dig out the trenches for the piping, for the plumbing, and then they'll have at the same time dig out the footings around the perimeter for the concrete and the structural integrity of the base of the foundation. But this is what a grubbing a lot's like. You can see all of the big trees in the backdrop. We'll have the rest of that stuff hauled off on Monday, and we'll get rid of all that garbage Monday. And what we do with a lot of the small grub is we actually bury it in the front over here. There's gonna be a little landscaping, but nothing structural on this other side. And so we cut our driveways around and we have all our base for our pad site coming in. So ladies and gentlemen, when you guys go in and you guys are buying land and building houses, it's real important. Like I'm looking now at our pad site, and what I'm gonna do now is I may have to rotate this house another 5 degrees to really capture the mountain views. The views are why people come out here and buy, because I just don't want our view to be staring at that house over there. And so now that I'm looking at the way the house is laid out, we may land up calling our surveyors and our architect and ask them to rotate this house about 5 to 7 degrees to be able to capture our mountain views. It's never too late until you actually start pouring concrete. Since we're just at dirt work, now that we have the layout and we could actually see it, we may pivot that. And that will take probably an extra 2 weeks to do, but that 2 weeks will afford us the build. And at the end of the day, you wanna make sure you have a product that's gonna sell. So for resale purposes, never be intimidated to make modest modifications in the early stages of construction, because they'll affect you down the road. If you think it, it's going to be an issue. If you think it now, it's going to be an issue later. So don't overthink it. Just make the change and pivot it. So we'll probably on Monday have our surveyor come out and pivot the house just to see where it would sit if we make those pivoting changes and set the house with a 5-degree turn on it. So D-Day, lots grubbed. We'll bring you some more footage as we get the pad site done and we start pouring the foundation. We'll bring you guys some ongoing footage and continued videos on our pad site, our foundation, our rough-in as we erect the house. You guys go out and compound your success.